What's up, everybody? In a recent Funko news video, I had a very small segment, very brief segment that focused on vaulted Funko Pops, and it was pretty well received, and I really was kind of feeling things out there. And since it was so well received, I decided I would go ahead and do a full-fledged video focusing on vaulted Funko Pops. So here it is, and this is my final YouTube video for the year 2017. I think this, would be an interesting one to tackle. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I do want to make a couple of quick notes here before we really get into the video. First of all, vaulted figures can sometimes still be found in stores. So I don't want anybody to be confused about that, especially new collectors. Just because something is vaulted, that doesn't mean it's completely gone. Okay, so you may still see them in stores, and but you got to understand though, once it sells out in stores, then that's it. The only way that you can get it is second market. Also, I know that some people collect with a big focus on value, which I'm not criticizing. I think that any collector, maybe should consider value, especially in the long run. But I do want to point out that because something is vaulted, that doesn't automatically mean that it's going to increase in value. Sometimes something gets vaulted because it's overproduced, or because it's not selling well, or there's just not really interest in it, whatever it may be. So again, just because it's vaulted, that doesn't mean automatically that it will increase in value. I do want to say this quickly though about value, because I feel like a lot of collectors are looking at things in the wrong way. What I mean by that is a lot of people look very short term. They look at, how much is this worth right now? How much will it be worth in about 6 months to a year? I think we got to get out of that mindset. Look at how much things are going to be worth and start thinking in terms of like 20 years from now. Because, I had a lot of figures as a kid that if I had maintained them, they'd be big money right now. And, with Pops being collectibles, I definitely think at some point that Funko, the popularity is going to die down. The Pops won't have a lot of value. But don't focus so much on Funko and that name Pops, on Funko Pops. Don't focus on that so much. Think about the characters. You think about certain characters and their popularity and their long-term popularity. Like, 20 years from now, is Batman still going to be popular? Absolutely. So if you have a rare Batman figure, or even one that's maybe not so rare, but one that people just don't even think about that much, who knows what it could be worth 20 years from now. So start thinking long-term value, and don't put the focus on Funko as a company. Put the focus on those characters and even those real people that are represented by the Funko Pops, and you never know what could happen down the line. And by the way, I gotta say also, that's a good reason to get some pop protectors. If you haven't already done so, something I need to take care of myself. Maintain your pop figures, because you never know long term what could happen. Enough about that though. Also here, I do want to point out, this video will focus on figures that are still on store shelves. To the best of my knowledge, I'm going to focus on figures that you actually still can go out and buy at retail value, or even marked down in a store. So along with that, please know what about comments like, what about The Simpsons? I mean, everybody knows The Simpsons are vaulted. That's not recent. I want to focus on what's recent. And I gotta say, in general, I think some people need to think about how they sound when they start off their comment with "what about." To me, it just comes out sounding very I don't even know a nice way to say it. It just sounds like you're going out of your way just to basically try to make a point. And there's a nice way to say everything, so I'll just say it that way. If you really have something to contribute that is helping out the collecting community, that's cool. Just be respectful in the way that you phrase things, basically. Let's get into it here though, starting off with Star Wars. And we know Star Wars always going to be popular. Not every movie is a critical darling, and even amongst fans, but still, regardless, Star Wars is a mainstay. It's going to be popular. So here are a couple of figures that are recently vaulted. You notice that most of these are from The Force Awakens. I think that's possibly because there are actually some figures that were barely changed, and then Funko put them in the box that says The Last Jedi. But again, long term, who knows what could happen, as far as value goes. I'll just say, if you're a big Star Wars fan and you don't already have some of these, just kind of keep them in mind. And there are more than these. I do want to stress this as I go along. I'm just going to show you certain figures from each wave, but if you see a certain figure from a particular wave, go ahead and assume that that whole wave is probably vaulted. So These figures here, of course, focusing on the NFL, these are some figures that really make the point that I've been saying, that it's not just about, what's going to be valuable a year from now. Really think long term. And you're looking at some players here that are basically Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. So yeah, really think long term about what the value could be if that is your focus. But in general, the main reason I'm doing this video is just because if you're collecting, and especially if you're a new collector, I want you to be aware of what you probably need to go ahead and purchase instead of waiting on, because I would hate for figures to disappear on you. I've already had it happen to me as a collector. So yeah, keep your eyes open if you are interested in any of these. And I'm not going to run through every player here, but you see some that I think if you want to get them, you really should go ahead and get them, like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Tony Romo. Yeah, if you're interested in these, don't wait around, because like I said, once they sell out, they are gone. And then with the WWE, this is kind of surprising to me because some of these are recent releases. So I don't know if something is going on with the WWE licensing. I really don't know. But like I said, there are some recently produced figures here that are already getting vaulted, including Roman Reigns, I think wasn't that long ago. And then the wave that you see down there in the bottom left, all of those wrestlers, including Bret the Hitman Hart, and Owens, yeah, they're already being vaulted. And Mick Foley is another big surprise to me as well. Mick Foley is just so big for WWE. It is surprising to see that his pop is already being vaulted, and that's one I would definitely go ahead and hang on to if you're a big wrestling fan. Go ahead and get that if you see it. Again, don't wait around, don't hesitate, go ahead and pick that one up. And then you see some other wrestlers here, definitely Hall of Famers like Andre the Giant, Sting, Ultimate Warrior. Again, I would definitely, if I was a big wrestling fan, go ahead and pick those up instead of waiting around. Don't assume that they're going to be around in stores forever. So Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I'm not completely surprised that they're being vaulted. It does seem like they were produced in good numbers, and maybe they aren't just selling very well anymore, especially some of the side characters. I can understand that, but if you're a fan of the movie, I would at least try to have Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompa in your collection, and then maybe pick up the others as well. But yeah, those two I would say are definites. If you are a fan of the movie, make sure that you have them. So some random animation ones here that I wanted to point out. Some of these movies were definitely more popular than others, and I know the Queen of Hearts is not particularly animation. It's based off of Alice Through the Looking Glass, I believe, which was live action, but still a lot of computer generated animation within that. So yeah, these are some different figures that I thought I would point out. And I want to stress again, if you see figures from a particular wave, then go ahead and assume that whole wave is being vaulted. Like with Zootopia and Duck Dodgers, I would just go ahead and assume that the full wave is probably being vaulted. By the way, I do want to point out with Olaf that the original Olaf, it seems is being vaulted. He was recently reproduced in a 2-pack, and I don't know if they actually did the original again, but regardless, it seems like the original is being vaulted. I don't know what will happen long term with the value there. I mean, it seems like they made a lot of Olaf figures, so down the line, I really don't know. I'm not going to bet on that. And out of all these figures here, the only one I have is Sadness, and that's because I genuinely like Inside Out, and that's what collecting should be about. Really mainly try to get these figures if you really appreciate them and you want them a part of your collection. I would say even if you focus on value, don't let that be your only focus. Let it be about what you really want to make sure that you have as part of your collection. Now, one thing that will affect, I think, the popularity of certain figures is movies. So with Predator, I'm still surprised that they're vaulting. Well, I guess it's been around for a long time, so maybe it's understandable, but they're vaulting the original Predator figure. That could be, though, because the movie is upcoming. There is a new Predator movie on the way, which of course means, more than likely there's going to be pop figures, an updated Predator. But still, I feel like if you're a hardcore Predator fan, you want to make sure you have the original in your collection as well, while you can still get it at retail value. I mean, no doubt if they do another Predator, it's going to be a lot more detailed and everything, but I think it still would be cool to have that original one also. So some movies that are more popular than others, but these are figures here related to movies, and of course they're being vaulted, of course. So Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I don't know if this goes along with some of the other Scott Pilgrim versus the World figures, but actually a lot of them were produced in very limited numbers. There were some that were on the Funko shop, some that were convention only, like for San Diego Comic-Con, but as far as the commons are concerned, they're on the way to be vaulted. Also for Ferris Bueller. Dark Crystal, which if you're a Dark Crystal fan, I would say definitely pick those figures up. Again, I don't really know if there's going to be value down the line, but just for the artistry of them, I think they are some really well designed Funko Pop figures. And I love like the wrinkling on the faces for some of them. It's just so much detail there. I think in general, older people or older characters can have more interesting faces because the wrinkles and everything, it just adds so much personality. So I think Funko did a phenomenal job with those. So if you like the movie and you appreciate the artistry of the figure, definitely be on the lookout for those. I know I've still been seeing them around. And the Pumpkin King as well is being vaulted. I don't know if this will affect, if this applies to other Nightmare Before Christmas figures, but that's the one that I've seen listed more than one time as being vaulted. Now, overall, it seems like the Pop Rides are not being produced nearly as much as they were for a while. I think a lot of that has to do with space. Like Wonder Woman's Invisible Jet, that thing is huge. It's like a coffee table. I mean, it is so huge. So I don't understand why Funko is not doing as many Pop Rides, because stores just don't want that shelf space taken up, and especially if it's something that's not selling well and then they have to mark it down or whatever. So yeah, I understand why Funko isn't doing as many Pop Rides. Yes, I do realize there are more on the way though, including 2 from Rick and Morty, which I'm looking forward to both of those. But in general, it seems like Funko is shifting more towards Pop Deluxe figures, which the Pop usually doesn't actually separate from the figure, or I should say the ride. And then also there's been a lot more Dorbs rides as well. So it seems like Funko's kind of shifting in that direction. Pop rides aren't completely gone, but yeah, they're not being produced as much. So if you're interested in any of these, again, think about long term. Like Ghostbusters. I think Ghostbusters will always have fans. In the Time Machine from Back to the Future, the DeLorean, I think that's just a classic thing. So down the line, that might be, if you're a big fan of Back to the Future, that might be something that you still want to have around. So yeah, just consider that. Now, in a Facebook group, Funko Auctions, I actually saw recently that somebody was selling Cyclops, and I had to stay out of it because I did want to respect the rules of that group. You're not really supposed to interfere with any auctions going on and say things that aren't about bidding or whatever. So yeah, I stayed out of it, but I was so tempted to point out to people that Cyclops is being vaulted, and yeah, I think that probably would have affected the bidding for some people to know that Cyclops is not going to be around much longer. And in general, that's one that I don't see in stores a lot. I see the other X-Men, I think, more than I see Cyclops. So yeah, if you're a big X-Men fan, and do remember, I think there's going to be some big things for X-Men in the future, since X-Men now falls up under Disney, because Disney bought up a lot of Fox properties. So yeah, I would say those original X-Men figures, if you could pick them up, I think it might be a smart move to do so. Ant-Man, of course, has a movie on the way, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they are vaulting the original figure, which is one of my personal favorites. I really like Ant-Man's costume. I have a couple of Ant-Man figures. As a matter of fact, I think I have them all at this point, because I just really like the costume design. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're vaulting the original Ant-Man because of that upcoming movie and the figures that will come along with it. Then you see Batgirl here as well, and do keep in mind, I think there's been rumors about a Batgirl movie being in production. I think it might still be in the writing stage or something, but I know that's a possibility. And then of course Thanos is going to be featured in Avengers Infinity War. So again, I'm not surprised that he's being vaulted, because of course there's going to be new Thanos figures. I'm saying figures. I just got a feeling that they're probably going to do more than one of Thanos. You all let me know what you think about that. I just would be surprised if they only did one figure of him. So that pretty much does it for this video. But of course, on this last screen here, I decided to share some other figures that are being vaulted as well, including Olivia Moore from iZombie, which is a pretty popular series. Figures from the 100. You see the Tekken figures, and I would assume this kind of goes along with the exclusives from Tekken as well. The Imposters, Dom from Fast and Furious, which makes me think that the other Fast and Furious figures might be being vaulted as well, including Paul Walker's character, and then there's also Hobbs, and they have a Pop Ride as well from Fast and Furious, and that is still a big franchise that has at least, I think, 2 more movies on the way. So yeah, if you're a big Fast and Furious fan and you see those figures around, you might want to pick them up, even though they're kind of plain looking, but still, you know, if you're a big fan, you might want them. The Daredevil figures based off the Netflix series are being vaulted. Again, I think that's probably because maybe there's more on the way, you know, from the Netflix series. And then some Doctor Who figures as well. You see some of them going on there. And I think there's actually more than that that's being vaulted related to Doctor Who. So yeah, just kind of keep your eyes open. And I'll say this like I've said several times before on my channel. Don't overlook commons. I know we had this attitude sometime that, oh, I'll get that common later on, it's gonna be there, but that's not always the case. Eventually they do get vaulted, and once they're sold, you know, they are gone. And then down the road, maybe not right away, but down the road, you know, they could possibly increase in value. But, you know, first and foremost, do get them for the appreciation of the figures, you know, in the designs. So yeah, I hope that this video was helpful, you know, especially to new collectors and maybe even people that have been collecting for a while. Maybe you didn't realize that some of these figures are being vaulted. So yeah, like I said, I really hope that this helped you out. And if you have anything helpful to contribute down below, please go ahead and do so. Like I said, just be respectful in the way that you phrase things, you know, that's very much appreciated. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. And I will talk to you all again real soon.